Hello. In this video we're going to talk about the role of upfront planning in Agile with respect to user experience. Now, some people who are, Agile orthodox people might say that there really shouldn't be any planning up front, and I don't know if there's a lot of people who believe that, but definitely I believe that that concept is very problematic in user experience. And in this video we're going to talk about why and what are some of the ways to combat that. Now, if you just go and Google, UX design and Agile, what you'll probably find is this method, which I'm going to call the sprint offset method. And the idea is that UX design works one sprint ahead of the sprinting team. And then actually the UX designer also has to be involved during the sprint. So, for example, during sprint 9, when the team is actually working on sprint 9, the UX designers will be worrying about the design that they need to do for sprint 10, and then when sprint 10 comes, that work has already been planned. This can work really well, but it's really only is good for projects that are rather small and have low complexity. So if your sprint duration is 2 weeks or 3 weeks, then you've got 2 weeks or 3 weeks of design time built in. But I've rarely worked on a project where you could really do good work in that amount of time, especially if you're beginning from the start. So it might be that a very small mobile app or a website, you might be able to do something like this in one sprint, but really overall you're going to need more time when you're starting a big project. So I guess I want to bring the metaphor of building a house. And if you're going to build a house, you probably don't want to just start without having any idea what you're actually going to build. And that's certainly the way it works in the UX design world, is that if you're doing anything of some complexity, then you're going to want to have an idea of what you're building. And so, here's a picture of a blueprint. You're going to want a blueprint. Now, again, if you Google Agile, what you'll probably find is something called Sprint Zero. And I think Sprint Zero is a bit of a misnomer, but I'll go with the terminology. And the idea is before sprinting actually begins, that the team has time to design the overall product. And I'm going to explain what that means. Now, this is just a template. This is just a sample. And in my Sprint Zero here, you can see there's 4 discrete steps, and I've said, what it's going to happen and who's going to be there. But really, you've got to define your own path here. And so the idea is up front, you do very early requirement gathering, and then you do some visioning and baking. And I can't stress the baking enough. I mean, the baking process is so important in user experience, making sure that you've got the right concept, and that's something that really takes time, and that if you're under the pressure of 2 weeks, you're just not going to get it right. So you really need to pay some attention to visioning, and then you go on to do some early golden path work, which is probably where you're going to bring out OmniGraffle, et cetera, and you'll probably start socializing it with others. And then once you've finally arrived at something that seems workable, then you begin to do more detailed design. And you can see here I have that you get up to maybe 75% of the project defined. But that number is not written in stone. Really, it's somewhere above 50%. Personally, I would be uncomfortable with anything below 70, but other people might be more comfortable with ambiguity. Again, I have this divided up into who is participating at what steps, and this is just completely straw man what I've thrown out there. It's obviously going to be UX plus other members of the team. In true Agile fashion, you actually might want to bring the team on as early as possible and get them involved, just so that they know what's going on. But again, that's for you to define. So now let's look at the bigger picture, which is at the beginning you have this Sprint Zero, which really isn't a sprint because it's, it's certainly before anything starts, but it's not the duration of a sprint. It could be, it could be anywhere from a month to 6 months. I mean, if you're working on something really complicated, the iPhone wasn't, germinated in 2 weeks. It probably took 2 years for them to, figure out that. So, it might take 4 months. It really depends on what you're building. And so once you've done that and you've taken it to, again, what I said was about 75%, but taken it to some degree of maturity, then you're ready to go into the offset sprinting cadence. So what we have here is that before actually anything happens, that the team basically starts trying to take the blueprint and adapting for the specific part of the product that the the sprinting team is going to work on, and you take that to 100%. And once it's finished, then the sprint team is ready to groom it and actually start working on it. Now, the truth is, you'll never take anything to 100% during the work. During the actual development, you'll find all sorts of holes, and sometimes you'll even have to go back to the drawing board. So you're never really getting to 100%. But the point is, you're doing your best to get it so that everyone really knows what they're building during the sprint, and then you're there with the team. You're definitely a pig, helping them and designing things ad hoc as necessary to get the work done. And then this just continues. But the idea is that at the beginning of the project, you have a lot of visioning so that you know what you're going to build in the first place. Now, some might look at what I'm proposing and just say, well, look, this just seems an awful lot like waterfall. I mean, obviously it is a hybrid, but I think it's a necessary hybrid, and it definitely is quite different, especially from a UX point of view. So first of all, I mean, you really don't ever take anything to 100% when you're doing the visioning stage. Normally in waterfall, you would just build the whole thing. You would know every feature you're going to build, and you would just take the whole thing to 100% and then start. In this case, you take nothing to 100%. You take it, to 75 or even less, and that takes some adjustment to. As well, you have no idea what the order of the features are going to be implemented in, and this is something that the product owners or the Scrum Master are going to help determine, and you can't really rely on that. So if you're building something with 5 features, you're going to have to design the 5 features totally independently, knowing that they could spring up at any time, and then you're going to have to deal with the team actually building it during the sprint, where they're only building one of the features without the other ones present, or even the other ones ever being present. And again, that's a big departure from waterfall. And then finally, I mean, and the whole point of Agile is that any time new features could come at you. So you've got the sprint, you've got the blueprint, you've got the plan for how you're going to build, but something totally brand new could come, and you're just going to have to design it, and you'll have to design it in that sprint offset cadence. So that's really the spirit of Agile, is to be able to deal with new things and adjust. And using the method that I'm proposing here, you certainly are able to do that, and I think that is absolutely a key to the Agile process. I hope you found this useful. By all means, if you have any questions, give me a shout. Thank you.